Hey there, everyone. My name is Imran Mouna, and welcome back to Visions for the Future of Higher Ed. Today, I'm joined by Darlene O'Neill from Fanshawe College. Really excited to have you here, Darlene. Thank you for making some time. Darlene is the Director of Career Services, Cooperative Education, Community Employment Services, Student Entrepreneurship, or the LEAP Junction team over at Fanshawe, and also the lead administrator of Fanshawe's Military Connected Campus. A lot of different titles in that introduction there, Darlene. I know you play a huge role at the college. And so again, thank you for making time for this today. We were just speaking a little bit before the recording began about this being a tricky time in higher ed. And I think people are excited to hear from folks like yourself who have experience, who have a vision of their own. And so to kick things off, I wanted to start with, what made you want to get into the field of education, Darlene? Where did the journey begin for you?
Wow, that's a great question. First of all, thanks for having me today. The field of education has always inspired me. I actually wanted to be a social worker and ended up adopting 3 children through Children's Aid. So I am a social worker, not qualified, but I did go on to do a master's of education. And through my master's of education, I was really inspired by adult education. And so post-secondary. And I left a career in defense, 21-year career, to join Fanshawe College. And it's been 14 years of just so much excitement and change and opportunity. I think the thing that inspires me most about post-secondary is watching the students as they journey through the doors and they begin their studies. But being on the stage, on the platform party when they graduate is really something special to watch.
Wow, that's incredible, Darlene. That's one of my favorite parts about doing these interviews is getting to know something new about someone I've worked with in the past. I know you and I have worked together for many years, but that's not something I would have known. That's amazing to hear. And I can see kind of why that interest in social work would lead to the role you're in now, because many of the career development staff that I speak to have that same drive to help and guide people through. It's a very important journey, the career development journey. And I think it's interesting that you kind of gravitated towards adult education, because I think a lot of people, when they think of their career journey, think that they're going to go to school for one thing, and then they're going to have a job in that thing, and then they're going to climb the ladder in that space. But so many things can happen and change along the way. So my next kind of question is, in terms of adult education that you've been a part of, what have you kind of seen helps people figure out how to transition from one thing to another? I mean, you yourself have, this wide breadth in your role. Have you had an opportunity to speak to people about how to figure out, where they want to go in their career journey?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that young people need to understand is that career is an intersection of learning and leisure and work. And trying to find the balance there. And sometimes it goes off balance and there's more time for learning, more time for work. So I think one of the things that students and people on a career journey have been enlightened by is the fact that it's not linear. No such thing as a linear career journey anymore. You don't graduate and then go right into the job and then become a manager and then retire. It doesn't work like that anymore. And oftentimes, people learn that they have to go backwards in order to go forward. Sometimes they go in a circular motion. In today's climate with, cutbacks and layoffs and tariffs and challenges and all of those things, many people might have to go backwards, but they're still on their career journey. And I think a career journey, what people need to understand is it's very personal, it's very flexible, and it doesn't end at retirement. It doesn't begin at graduation and it doesn't end at retirement. I think your career begins from the time that you start even thinking about the world of work.
I think that's a great reminder, really, because I think people can feel like it's only happening to them. But that sense of, hey, sometimes we do go back to go forward, and that it's a natural part of a journey like this, even if the circumstances are unusual and challenging right now, that sort of non-linear path is common. And I think people relax a little when they hear that. So thank you for mentioning it, that
You're welcome.
it's part of what happens sometimes. And the last kind of question I'll ask about, what led you into the field is just that you mentioned you had a previous career in defense. Are there things you learned from that early role that have affected the way you do things now in a completely different sector?
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah, so when I was at Defense, I was basically doing human resources, strategic human resources. So when I left Defense, a lot of the tools that I took with me, I was much younger then. And so I gained all of the skills. I continue to gain skills. But some of the things that are core competencies in me around dealing with people, helping others, supporting strategic adventures and strategic missions, it's so funny because I feel like my career's come full circle because now I'm leading the military connected college here. So understanding different cultures and, being a proud Canadian, all of those types of things that really transferred into the roles that I do here at Fanshawe. I think they were really important. I carried the employment equity, for example, portfolio in defense. EDI is a huge factor now in the work that we do every day. And with the diverse student bodies that we have, treating everybody with respect and dignity is a core value. So I learned that at a young age in defense and carried it forward through my life. So yeah, communication, caring for others, understanding structure was a big one from defense. Capacity for roles and responsibilities and who's in charge and who's not in charge.
Right.
I think those are important things to learn.
Absolutely. And I'm glad to hear that because I think, again, as people make this career change, they feel like it's going to be entirely new and they're going to have to learn everything from scratch. And even though, it's true, like you said, there's going to be this step back. There's going to be so much you take from these previous roles into the next role. So it's super interesting to kind of hear what you took into the next role with you and to come full circle like this and now support military connected students is wild. And you mentioned something else, right? That there are lots of changes going on right now. So part of what I'm trying to explore in these conversations is, as leaders in the education space, what are some of the changes that you think post-secondary can make to help prepare students for the future? Some of them are, changes we don't have any choice but to deal with. But from what you've seen and experienced, Darlene, are there changes that you would be excited to see or that are top of mind for you?
I think that, as we rethink the post-secondary landscape, I think we have to pay really close attention to the industry trends, what's going on in the geopolitical, economic, industrial landscapes that we work with every day in post-secondary. Sometimes we might have to say goodbye to some programs that have been, traditional programs and look to the future, look to how are we going to support the economy and how are we going to support the workers in a time of disruptive innovation. So I think, becoming disruptive and getting used to getting comfortable with disruption and innovation is going to be really important. And post-secondary sometimes is a little behind in the bureaucracy. Funding, I think, continual advocacy for funding. But from a student's perspective, I believe that students still come to post-secondary so they can have that career or get that job. Sometimes it's as simple as a job. And I think that, providing them with holistic supports as well as the appropriate academic programming is going to be really important and crucial moving forward. Because it's a scary time out there, as we all know. There's lots of threats and chatter and noise. And I think, staying focused and being flexible, but creating jobs that are going to support the the economy moving forward. I think about right now, what's big in my head is supply chain, from a college. I think about that. And I think when Canada is opening our interprovincial borders, there's going to be huge opportunity there for supply chain and for makers and creators and builders and innovators to come up with speed rail. We might need different and innovative ways to get our goods across the country, but also shifting mindsets is going to be really important. So I think industry aligning our programs, maintaining our confidence. We are the post-secondary sector in Canada, and we're not going anywhere. We might be getting a little smaller, but we're not going anywhere. Still, the people that are preparing are Canadians for the future, Canadians and our international students as well.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And it's a great perspective, I think, to share with other leaders who are trying to figure this out because, it's not well, let's teach students about AI. We have to pay attention to the larger changes happening. What kind of opportunities are going to become available? How can programming be built around these opportunities so that students can take advantage of them? It's a really helpful perspective, Darlene, to think about and do some planning around, because I do think there are opportunities there. Certainly, even just within the challenges, there will be roles that we need people to play and take lead of. So that's a great point, and I hope other people take that perspective as well and start looking at, hey, where are the opportunities in some of these challenges? Did you have more to add on that?
Well, I was just going to say, and I know the work that you do in AI, and I think AI is going to be a really important feature going forward. The fear of AI is huge. And a lot of people see AI as the enemy, or something that post-secondary students can cheat with, right?
Yes.
It's not. It's a tool that's going to help us have higher levels of thinking as we move forward into this new journey that we're going to have to go on throughout this country, throughout this world. We're not just a Canadian country anymore. We're global. We're making new friends. We are creating new industries, new trade like marketing. There's so many things that AI is going to be important for. And learning to use it with respect, and relying on experts in the field to teach our students how to use it respectfully. Think about medicine, and, colleges put out so many healers that medicine is going to be like it already is using AI, but there's so much more capacity. So, always aspiring to be better than we were and using the tools that become invented to make sure that our students and our learners are the most equipped for a successful future is really important.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I think people are starting to, like you say, look a little bit past the fear again to the opportunities that these types of tools create. I heard an amazing idea the other day. It was that AI can completely change the way students do assignments, in the sense that they can do so much more in an assignment now. A business student, for instance, to your point about the high-speed rails, may not just have to do a financial analysis. They might actually be able to mock up a company and design what the rail looks like, and design so much more with the help of AI, that they get this much more holistic view, to your earlier point as well, of what that kind of a contribution could look like. So I think it could really change the way students engage in learning, because they'll be able to do so much more of the work and see where it lands. So I think it is an exciting time in that way as well. It certainly isn't going to be limited to just students using it to write reports for them. I think there's so much more to it.
Plagiarize, as everybody thinks they're doing.
Yeah,
They're
and
not.
a fair fear in the beginning, but I think people are starting to see where, hey, well, we can use this to actually give students a more engaging assignment, because we can use it to help us create assignments. So I like that perspective a lot, Darlene. And kind of on that same note, like as we think of disruptive forces that will reshape education, do you have advice so far on how to bring staff and teams up to speed? Because there is that initial. Have you found anything working, maybe professional development wise, that is helping people come up with some of these ideas? I've heard of workshops being designed around this. I've heard of AI thought leaders who kind of play a role in the school to organize working sessions. Has anything come across your path so far?
Yeah, here at Fanshawe, we have an entire AI strategy. So we've given a lot of thought to AI at Fanshawe, and we have tools, workshops, all sorts of activities for our professors and our staff to learn about the value of AI, to learn about, of course, we have InStage, and we use that with students, with job searching and helping them be successful and prepared for interviews. We're now delving into AI as a resume tool to help them come up with words that they might not be familiar with. So not everything looks the same, to research different types of jobs and what competencies might be required, because we don't know them all, but AI has a whole world out there that we can access with the push of a button. So there's so many opportunities. We're now developing workshops for our students. Yeah, we use AI pretty strategically here at Fanshawe.
That's great to hear. And I think to your point, like, having a team that's kind of dedicated to answering questions as they come up and just creating a space for people to have conversations and say, hey, this is a tool I learned about. Here's how it works. I think it helps people feel like, oh, I didn't know it could do that. I didn't know it could do more than just write an email or write an essay. Like, it can be used to brainstorm and do all these different things that make people feel more comfortable with the tool in general. That's great to hear that Fanshawe is already ahead of the game in terms of facilitating those kinds of discussions and info sessions. So I'm not surprised, but that's nice to hear.
Yeah, we're pretty much leaders. We like to think we are anyway.
Well, absolutely. And again, I've worked with the Fanshawe team for many years, and I've seen them adopt early forms of this technology years ago. So it's exciting to kind of see that continue to develop there. Another question I had now is, the other part of this podcast that is exciting to me is this chance to have leaders essentially share messages with other leaders in the field. So is there something that is top of mind for you as a question that you would like to hear other leaders speak to? Is there a challenge right now that you as a leader would want to pose to others in the field to say, hey, how are you tackling this challenge? Does any questions like that come to mind for you?
I think what's top of mind right now, particularly in the college system, in post-secondary, if I just talk from my sector, is the confidence levels. I'm not a young leader. I'm not a 20, 30, 40-year-old leader. So I've seen cycles like this before. And even though it feels heavy on our shoulders, we've had many institutions and it's news that people are losing their jobs, and this too will pass. And I think having the confidence to be that leader that can stay with your team and help your team find the way through the grayness. I won't call it dark. It's kind of gray because there could be light in certain circumstances. But once it's all done and dusted, it's going to get better and opportunity will return. So I think a challenge for any leader in any institution is to try to focus on your purpose. What is your purpose and why are you in this role? But even if you're not in this role, think about what you've taken. And I'll go right back to the question that you asked me at the beginning. What did you take from defense to go into post-secondary? And I just totally changed sectors. Think about the gifts that you've learned and the things that you've learned in this sector to move yourself forward in another sector. And I also said earlier, sometimes you might have to go backwards to go forward, but know that this cycle, it's cyclical. It will change. And there's, I think about the AI conversation we just had. The opportunities are new. So stay fresh, keep learning, and be true to your core. I think being true to who you truly are and what you can offer any institution will help you get through and help you as a leader lead your team through what's going to be difficult times.
I think that's extremely timely advice on a couple different fronts there, Darlene. So again, I hope people take some time to reflect on that and think about the skills they've developed, the type of leaders they want to be. And to your other point, I think there are young leaders that are trying to find their place in this space. And so, is there an example of a leader that you've met along the way that kind of helped you figure out the kind of leader you want it to be? Are there traits that you admire in leadership or things you've learned along the way that you would pass on to young leaders that are entering the field or who are looking for some guidance on how to be an effective leader in a space like this?
Yeah, I've been so fortunate. I've had so many great mentors in my career, from a full rank admiral to a manager. So I think some of the traits that I would recommend to young leaders is keep learning, never turn down a learning opportunity. And as a leader, mentoring a young leader, promote their learning opportunities. As a leader, don't take credit for the work that your team has done. Give your team credit. Don't own it. It's not your work. It's the work that you've asked them to do. And when they shine, let them shine. Make sure that they're highlighted. Give them opportunity. You know, I have two really amazing young people on my team right now that are in assignments, and they were really distraught to leave. And I said, no, you know, take this opportunity. If I didn't believe in your career development, why am I in this role when I'm trying to promote career development in everybody? Take risks. I think risks are really important. No idea is a bad idea. You know, be a leader that will accept, you know, the ideas that your team are coming to you with, and try it out. Them try it out. You try it out. If it fails, that's okay. We fail forward together. But when great things, recognize it, because it instills confidence. And, you know, many, particularly young women, I will say, that I know who have gone in leadership roles still suffer from imposter syndrome. And it's something, you know, it's funny. I did a presentation last week to the senior leader group here at the college, and I could feel my voice shaking. And I'm like, my God, I've been doing this for 40 years. Why am I nervous? But you know what? It told me that I still have a sense of humility. And so having a sense of humility is also really important as a leader. Know when you're wrong. Know when your team is right, because they're fresh and they're young and they have bright ideas. And if we let them grow and develop, they're going to become those leaders of tomorrow that when people like me leave, I feel confident in leaving my space behind for them.
I love that, Darlene. So what a wealth of information, wealth of experience to share there. I think that's so true. And I think it might be a heightened form of confidence to have that kind of humility to say, hey, you know, okay, maybe something I did could be done better by these ideas that the team have. I'm giving a presentation and I'm not nervous. I have this same sense of humility that would make you an effective leader. So many pieces of advice in there that I truly resonate with and also respect in leadership. The idea that, you know, you don't lose anything by promoting the team and highlighting their accomplishments. And I do think that confidence is built in those small moments when you give someone a chance to run with something and to give them the space to make some mistakes and catch them, you know, if they need your support. I think that really is a defining quality of great leadership, because it does foster future leaders instead of creating the sense that it's, you know, it's just the person in charge who knows what's going on and can make decisions. So I couldn't agree more. And I really appreciate the answer to that question. And the last thing, you know, I think we might have time for here. It always goes quicker than I expect. I only have a couple more of your minutes here, but is there anything happening in education right now that excites you? Something that is going on? It might be something specifically that you're working on, that you've heard is happening, that you want to shine some light on before we wrap up our conversation today.
Oh, yeah. I think, you know, education in Canada is going to be redefined. I think we are, you know, and every generation believes that we're creating a better space for the next generation. And I think this disruption that we're experiencing right now, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And it's going to cause some disruptive innovation is what I like to call it. You know, our research focus is stronger. Our innovation focus is stronger. Creativity is alive at the college. You know, everybody's figuring out ways to become more of an economic contributor. And creating people that are going to be successful in their futures. So I think here at Fanshawe, we've just opened Innovation Village. It's a year old. There are so many neat things going on in the village, and, you know, maker spaces. You know, colleges, I'll speak from my experience with colleges. I did graduate from 2 universities, but I'll speak from colleges. But colleges are, you know, they're the makers and the creators and the builders and the helpers and the healers and the innovators and the carers. We're creating that next generation of people that are going to be the core of what is Canadian. And I think we have a really great opportunity right now to shine a light on the good work that we do and the amazing students that we have. And I would challenge any alumni or post-secondary graduate to mentor a young person coming up and leaving college or being in college, because they need to have hope instilled And I believe that mentorship and leadership is going to be really important in the post-secondary world going forward.
Amazing, Darlene. I couldn't have asked for a better closing message. And I feel that sense of hope from your insights throughout the conversation today. I'm excited to share it with people. I think they need that. I think they need that message of hope to be spread. I love the concept of the village because I think it ties into this idea that you're challenging other leaders to mentor. I think it creates that community that people need to feel that sense of hope and want to contribute to. So thank you for contributing to the podcast today, Darlene, for sharing these ideas. And again, that message of hope. I truly appreciate it and want to thank you again for the time today.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. We'll wrap it up here, folks. If you have questions, let us know, and we will try and get some more insights from Darlene for you in the future. Thanks again, Darlene.
Thanks.